One thing that people should know is that we know how great we had it.
I would run to the bathroom every 5 minutes in complete terror, fright that I was going to be fired from this job.
The behind-the-scenes secrets of Family Ties. Michael J. Fox's personal story of how he went from poverty to fame.
I owed taxes, I owed, months of back rent, I had no phone.
Michael and Tracy Pollan, from co-stars to husband and wife.
Did he strike you as the kind of guy that you could possibly spend the rest of your life with?
Tracy was in a serious relationship. I was in a quasi-serious relationship.
Michael's diagnosis with Parkinson's disease.
I found myself at 7 years not battling it, not struggling with it, but dealing with it.
And how his TV family felt when they heard the news.
It had been too long since we had spoken, and so I got back in touch.
The littlest sister shares her new look and her Family Ties photo album.
I think that was my first limo ride.
Justine Bateman's 10-year battle with anorexia and bulimia that she kept secret from the cast.
Most of my decisions were based in fear in the past.
And who the network wanted to hire instead of Michael J. Fox.
NBC said, "We want you to replace Michael Fox."
They didn't like me. They didn't like me at all.
The behind-the-scenes controversy. The questions over who was the biggest star.
Wait a minute, this isn't what the show was supposed to be.
The stories you never knew. All the faces you remember. The real Family Ties.
This is Entertainment Tonight, the most watched entertainment news program in the world.
Welcome to Entertainment Tonight's closer look into one of TV's most memorable families, the Keatons of Family Ties. Hi, I'm Mark Steines.
And I'm Julie Moran, and the year was 1982. America was in the midst of Reagan-era conservatism. And in the back rooms of Paramount Studios, an idea was born. Create a sitcom to poke fun at just how far right-wing politics had gone.
So, Family Ties was conceived, but one of the 80s biggest hits almost never got off the ground.
What would we do, baby, without us?
As people, we all knew we were part of something really special.
The concept was unique. Two parents, both former 60s flower children, raising 1980s kids who can't fathom their parents' liberal views.
Well, that was a waste of 2 hours. I can't believe that your mother and I are the only ones who enjoyed a hard day's night.
No, I think there were some other old people in the audience who enjoyed it.
We are, in a sense, family. There was a great deal of affection we all had for each other.
Family Ties creator Gary David Goldberg says he based the show a bit on his own life. He had trouble selling the idea to CBS, but former NBC president Brandon Tartikoff saved the day.
The pilot began as a project at CBS as a 1 hour, and they passed and decided they didn't want to do it. And enter my hero, Brandon Tartikoff, who read that script and said, "Gary, I love it, but I want you to do this. Will you do it as a half hour live?" And I said, absolutely.
My vocal cords can be very stubborn. It took them 6 months to say President Nixon.
New York stage actor Michael Gross had never done a TV series when cast as the idealistic father.
They were a week away from filming their pilot, and they had nobody. The producer, Gary Goldberg, used to tell me that it was his daughter who picked me out. He had some of these audition tapes he took home with him, and his daughter sort of perked up when I came on the screen and went, "Oh, I like that one."
Meredith Baxter had already achieved fame on the show Family and was the first actor cast for the show. She says she had an immediate rapport with her TV husband because they were both born June 21st, the very same year. Although Gross would often cue her to enter a scene a bit early.
He'd say, "Oh, go, go," and I'd go running out. And the people on stage would go look at me like, "What are you doing here?"
Justine Bateman told us in 1989 she had practically no experience when cast as the dim-witted Mallory.
I was in this business 4 months. I got 2 commercials in the pilot for Family Ties. Very lucky, I know. But the funny part is I knew nothing about the business. I didn't know what a pilot was. So I suppose when I walked in, they were looking for Mallory, couldn't find her. I walked in, didn't know what a pilot was, and I was Mallory because I didn't know what I was doing.
But young Tina Yothers, who today barely resembles what she looked like as a child, had been in the business since she was 3.
The very first day of work, I had the stomach flu, and I was constantly throwing up, and I thought that if they found out that I was going to be fired, so I would run to the bathroom every 5 minutes in complete terror, fright that I was going to be fired from this job.
In 1984, Meredith Baxter was pregnant with twins, but on Family Ties, she delivered only one child, Andy, who as a preschooler was played by Brian Bonsall.
It's gonna be just a very special day, just you and your big brother, and he forgot all about it.
No, I'm really depressed.
I remember Meredith and Michael Fox always played tag, always running around. I remember they used to hide the donuts from me. They used to put them on top of the soda machines because I'd eat them all and get really hyper, and then they couldn't get me to do directions and do what I needed to do.
Hello, everybody.
Mark Price played Justine's pal Skippy and says Baxter was truly like a mom looking over her brood.
I was a little boy, I grew up on the show. I had trouble, I had blurred lines between reality and our TV fiction because she really was like the mom. She wasn't like my mom, but she was the mom of the show. And so, she used to, she caught me smoking cigarettes and she gave me the riot act and I stopped smoking cigarettes.
The cast seemed to truly turn into the Keaton family. Scott Valentine played Justine's boyfriend, the not too bright but lovable Nick, and says he marveled at the camaraderie.
At times it would be this spectacle of Meredith and Justine and Fox and Gross on the floor tickling each other and laughing uproariously. And then at other times there would be this sort of, he ate the last Pop-Tart. I don't want to talk to him. I wanted that Pop-Tart. So it was just like a family.
Where are you guys off to? Little touch football game at McKinley Field, but just play every Saturday, just a friendly game.
Whoa, yeah, it was a friendly game till I was invited to play.
Sorry, just a reflex.
And long before she was a friend, Courtney Cox joined the show as Michael J. Fox's girlfriend, Lauren. She had been spotted by the producers when she appeared in a Bruce Springsteen video and told us in 1987 that she was hoping the sitcom would give her Hollywood exposure.
I guess if I do a good job on the show and people watch it, it'll open doors for me. I hope so.
With Courtney, she was newer and hadn't done as much and was really, it was a newer experience for her. So she was much more coming to me saying, how does this work? How do I do this?
And many other big stars who were not so well known at the time appeared on the show.
Tom Hanks, Gina Davis.
River Phoenix was on the show.
River Phoenix was on the show.
You're supposed to be at Jimmy's.
We had a big fight over Social Security. He was for it.
Now, it's hard to imagine anyone else than Michael J. Fox in the role of the young, right-wing, Reagan-worshipping Alex Keaton. He and Tracy Pollan invited me to reminisce about Family Ties, and he revealed that just before he was cast, he was flat out broke.
By the time I got Family Ties, it was really it. I mean, it was the end of the line for me, and I owed taxes. I owed, months of back rent. I had no phone. I had no furniture. I had a sectional couch that I was actually selling section by section to another actor who lived in my apartment. I was down to the last section.
Originally, Matthew Broderick was wanted for the role, but he didn't want to leave New York. When Gary David Goldberg found Michael J. Fox, he knew he had found his Alex.
NBC said, we're picking up the show, we love it, we just have one note, we want you to replace Michael Fox.
Yeah, they didn't like me. They didn't like me at all.
They said, replace him, and I said, this is the guy. And then they said, okay, if you really feel that strongly about it, we'll go with him.
After the fact, when Gary told me that there was this thing going on, I'm glad that I didn't know, because it would have shattered this confidence that was building and really allowing me to do the work that I was doing.
And Michael got the last laugh with Tartikoff, who had said, quote, "We can't see his face on a lunchbox."
So I sent the lunchbox to Brandon with my picture on it, and I wrote, this is for you to put your crow in. Lots of love, Michael J. Fox.
What would we do, baby?
Coming up on Entertainment Tonight's The Real Family Ties.
Michael J. Fox, from supporting actor to huge Hollywood star.
We suddenly found ourselves with lightning in a bottle. I mean, he was the Fonzie of the 80s, if you will.
How the cast felt about his rise to fame and how it changed the family. Tina Yothers, her wild new look as the Family Ties sister turned rocker, opens up her personal scrapbook to show us the candid pictures from the set. Justine Bateman's secret struggle with bulimia and anorexia behind the scenes of the show. How she kicked the disease after keeping it hidden for a decade.
She tells stories about baking cookies for the entire staff, 100 people, and then eating them all before they got to the set.
That's next.
What would we do, baby, without us?
Welcome back to Entertainment Tonight's The Real Family Ties. This is the actual kitchen table used in the series where the family used to hang out and talk.
And in the years since the series went off the air, Tina Yothers has kept those family ties very close to her heart. While her look has changed considerably since those clean-cut sitcom days, one thing will remain the same: her love for her TV family.
From day one, we were siblings. I mean, the whole experience was a blast.
Tina started on the show when she was just 8 years old. E.T. spoke with her in 1989, just before her 16th birthday, and she was aware that her years growing up were a public affair.
When you go over to a friend's house and you want to see a baby picture or something, their mother brings out their photo album. Mine is on national television.
This is just a small collection of my Family Ties years.
She kept her own scrapbook through her years on Family Ties, and Tina sat down with E.T. to share some of those fond memories.
This was the first episode that we shot. This one with Michael, he presented me with the Child of the Year award.
I really thought she was the one that was going to break out and really, and she did obviously in her own way, but she was just so special. She really kept us in touch with the kid element.
I think that was my first limo ride. Actually, that day we had an NBC party at affiliates party at Hugh Hefner's house. This is Justine in action, and this is Michael tackling me, and he has a big water Uzi in his hand. We had these Uzis, like these super soaker Uzis, and we'd all load up and just run around the whole stage and backstage and just completely destroy one another.
She's also, physically strong. And that was one of the big things about Tina, too, is she literally could beat me in an arm wrestle.
Sounds more like a practical joke than a job.
Tina says the success of the show drew everybody closer, and that producers watched who they hired to protect the family environment they had created.
Anyone that came in to the show, whether they were guest stars or new PAs or whatever their position was, if they weren't involved and didn't have a good attitude, they weren't there for very long. As far as like the cast and the immediate crew, everyone loved each other. It was great, and the success just brought that even bigger.
The family atmosphere also had its downside. Since Tina wasn't attending school, she was tutored on the set.
I had enough parents on that stage. Every single one of those people kept me in line. Like if I didn't go back up to school, when it was time to go back up to school, I had 50 people on my back. What are you doing down here? Get your butt back up to school,
She didn't miss the high school experience at all. In fact, Tina believes she had more fun than most.
Everyone I've ever heard tell their high school prom story has been a disaster. So I think going to the Emmys and dressing up and doing my formal attire, I think that was a lot of fun. I had a great time.
Say you want me, you'll find me, you'll never stop to want me.
She's now turned to music, something she's always had a passion for. Missing the long blonde hair, Tina feels acting is still part of her life.
That comes along with singing on stage. It's a blast. There's definitely part of that in me every night.
The name of the band is Jaded, with a self-produced CD about to be released entitled Jaded.com. And Tina knows exactly where she wants to be.
As far as right now, I want to be a rock star.
Next on Entertainment Tonight's The Real Family Ties.
How Meredith Baxter dealt with her painful divorce while she was doing the show.
It was a place I could come where I knew that I could be whole.
Her personal stories of solace on the set. The youngest member of the Family Ties cast and the tricks Big Brother Michael pulled to get the temperamental tot to work.
Michael Fox mooned me behind the stage.
Michael and his wife Tracy Pollan, how they met, fell in love, and got married.
We weren't together that long before we got engaged.
That's next.
What would we do, baby, without us?
You're watching Entertainment Tonight's The Real Family Ties.
By the fourth season, President Reagan called Family Ties his favorite TV series, and it had become a huge success in the ratings as well.
But behind the scenes, there was controversy with the cast. Who was the show's biggest star?
Brandon sent us a memo saying this show is about Michael Fox. Do you know what I mean? Here's what we're finding in the research.
That memo from NBC programming executive Brandon Tartikoff shook the very foundations of Family Ties. While creator Gary David Goldberg envisioned this as Elise and Steve Keaton's show, the audience wanted Alex.
I was the third kid from the left. That was what I was hired to be. And then, you know, the writers started to see what I could do and started to write toward it. And so that I very quickly got a sense of people identifying me and saying, this kid's got something.
Suddenly, Michael had become a huge Hollywood star, and his rapid rise caught the cast off guard.
We suddenly found ourselves with lightning in a bottle. I mean, he was the Fonzie of the 80s, if you will.
I said, look, this is not going to be what we all signed on to do. I can't tell you that it is.
Yeah, you know, it was hard. Like, wait a minute, this isn't what the show was supposed to be. So there's a certain, you know, my ego was threatened. You know, I felt a certain loss of stature.
But they were always terrific to me, and I was...
And Michael was always so,
so happy to be
low-key
there.
about it, and just, he was so sensitive, I think, to that.
And I was so happy to be there. I was just so happy to be there that I was careful not to be a jerk about it.
And we were all in the same dressing rooms. He wasn't being treated any differently on the set. We all got yelled at by the stage manager. And so, but that was something we just saw happening.
Ever since the robbery, I can't help feeling real weird.
That's because you are real weird.
Michael's emergence into a superstar was easier because the cast had established some family ties of their own. During the first season, Meredith and Michael actually carpooled.
In the morning, there would be this honk of the horn, and in the alleyway would be Meredith Baxter, at this time Bernie, in a yellow, like a lemon Mercedes.
But I would pick him up on the way to work, and I'd wait outside. When he got I would honk him awake. He'd get in the shower, and then I'd fly down Beverly to Paramount as fast as I could.
There were great moments for Meredith and I because I learned, I just learned how you could be an actor and an adult.
But away from the set, Meredith's own family ties were falling apart. Her 15-year marriage to David Burney was heading towards divorce, and her busy sitcom schedule eased her pain.
It was a godsend. It was a place to be. God, makes me want to cry. It was the place I could come where I knew that I could be whole. Because when I left there, I didn't, you know, everything was all shaky. So it was a wonderful boon for me.
Meanwhile, Michael's TV father was teaching him about comedy. In 2 memorable episodes, Alex hired Gina Davis as a housekeeper who unwittingly sabotaged every household appliance.
She's fixed things, and she's fixed the toaster, and the toaster's firing toast, you know, across the room. And so at a certain point, this toast goes flying, and Michael Gross ducks it, and he grabs this piece of toast and he holds it up to me and he goes,
"If this had been a Pop-Tart, we'd be dead now."
And it's all I can do to hold it. But he was killer because he was so well-trained and so in the moment and so smart. I mean, a really brilliant guy.
Michael learned his lessons well enough to earn 3 Emmys in 3 years and launch his movie career with the Back to the Future trilogy. But on the set, Michael rarely threw his newfound weight around, except when his TV baby brother, Brian Bonsall, would refuse to go on stage.
I go back to his room and I say, you know, listen, bud, here's the deal. Everybody's freaking out, you know. He'd say, well, I want to wear my Hawaiian shirt. And I'd say, did anybody ask you, you know, what the problem was? He said, no, but all it is, I want to wear my Hawaiian shirt. So I'd go back out and say, okay, here's the deal. He'll do the show. He just wants to wear his Hawaiian shirt. He got this new Hawaiian shirt. He thinks it's really cool. Again, he's 6, right? Of course. So I said, let him do the show. Well, it won't match. He said, he's going to wear the Hawaiian shirt. We're going to do the show. Let's move on.
I remember one time they couldn't get me to go out on stage. I was nervous or something, and Michael Fox mooned me behind the stage, and it made me laugh, and I went out, and it was pretty funny.
Listen, this whole thing is shaking me up a little bit, so if you don't mind, I need a drink.
Yeah, I think the scotch is... Wait a minute!
Thought I could slip that one by you.
Since the show ended in 1989, the cast has grown in their own unique ways. Brian Bonsall fronts a rock band. Meredith Baxter has launched her own Signature Collection skincare line. Michael says his character, Alex P. Keaton, probably hasn't fared so well.
Well, I'd always joke with Gary that it'd drive him crazy. I would say he's in jail. You know, and then I thought maybe he might be on Wall Street. That's why I thought he'd be in jail from some kind of inside trading thing. But I actually like to think that Alex went on to do well doing good.
And of course, Michael has done good, executive producing and starring in Spin City. And today he says he'll never forget what good fortune those family ties created.
One thing that people should know is that we know how great we had it, and we're really grateful that people loved it.
What would we do, baby? Coming up on Entertainment Tonight's The Real Family Ties.
Michael J. Fox and his fight against Parkinson's disease.
Days that are very stressful and very exciting, you know, provide more challenges than others. So obviously today is a challenging day.
From why he told the world to his Senate testimony, we look at how his life has changed since he got the news. Justine Bateman's rock star romance, her love affair with Leif Garrett, and how she beat her decade-long eating disorder.
Gave my life to Jesus Christ and was in a 12-step program.
That's next.
What would we do, baby, without us?
Welcome back to Entertainment Tonight's The Real Family Ties.
After the show ended its successful run, the popularity of the series propelled the cast into other projects.
For Justine Bateman, though, her real-life role became that of a Hollywood wild child. From dating rockers to an eating disorder, Justine Bateman had turned into the black sheep of the TV family.
Most of my decisions were based in fear in the past, and that's just not an option anymore.
I'll never forget those nights you stayed up trying to teach me long division. You got a concussion from banging your head against the wall.
As the loopy Mallory, Justine was the perfect foil for her smart aleck brother. But offstage, her life was careening out of control. Just a year after winning the career-making role, the actress developed the eating disorders anorexia and bulimia, a fact she kept secret from friends, family, and her co-stars. When we sat down with Justine in 1996, she was happy, healthy, and on track, both personally and professionally. After a 7-year absence, she was back in a series, having landed a starring role in the sitcom Men Behaving Badly. It was at that time that Justine decided to go public with her illness, talking to E.T. and TV Guide's Mark Schwed.
We talked to the people